The Phil Jackson comments come from, I didn't even think it was that lengthy. It was a Q&A with Jackie McMullen. And in those comments, which I think most people who weren't stuck under a rock saw yesterday and saw the reaction to yesterday. But basically, the comments everybody's freaking out about is he was talking about Pat Riley. And he's like, look, when LeBron was in Cleveland, when LeBron was in Miami and they go to Cleveland, his mom and his posse would want him to stay behind, and the team didn't want to stay the night. So it leaves Eric Spoelstra basically in a sticky spot, and he's having to text his boss, hey, what do I do here? And Pat Riley rules with an iron fist. My takeaway from it was, yes, it was a jab at LeBron and his boys who he hung out with, but more than anything, the setup that they had in Miami and how Pat Riley chose to handle it. What was your takeaway from it?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, but I think I slightly disagree with the premise that the discussion today and yesterday was about Phil's comments, because the discussion today and yesterday is really more about the fact that Maverick and LeBron both said in different ways, nobody's calling Phil racist, but none of us think he would have said that if we weren't young black guys. And that's what people get upset about, because the new racism in America, evidently, is acknowledging that race played a part in something. And here is what I would ask the audience and people that disagree with where I stand on this. Have this honest discussion in your own head. If LeBron James's agent and manager were Harvard-educated white guys, would they ever be called his posse? And the answer is no. It would be his power team, his, whatever. If these guys had come over, even if they were the same age, they'd come over from the tech bubble at Twitter and started working with him. So, no, the idea, nobody is saying Phil Jackson's a malignant racist. But what LeBron was saying and Maverick was saying, and they are totally correct, is because these are young black dudes who didn't come from money, who came up with LeBron, their credibility is constantly questioned and undercut. Maverick has built a very successful business. He is a power broker in the business world. Rich Paul is one of the most powerful agents in the sport. They are not hangers-on. They are not members of his clique, his crew, his entourage. But because they're young, because they're black, people take them less seriously. That's what LeBron said. Go ahead.
I would. Here's where I'll disagree with you. I'll say this. I think there's more ageism than racism here. Okay. It reminds me of Entourage. It reminds me of how E was viewed, right? It reminds me of how Turtle was viewed as less than equal to other people in their position. And I would actually it's a term to which I don't think it's a term of endearment, but it's also not necessarily nearly as denigrating as some would make you believe. I think, if you want to use it in some racial context, that's fine. But I don't think I don't think anybody thought at its core it was designated because he's black. I mean, one of the issues
hold on. Was David Falk part of Michael Jordan's posse?
No, because he didn't travel with them the same. Again, you're making a parallel that didn't David. Look, LeBron brought his guys with him everywhere. Here's the point to which Phil was making, which is completely accurate by anybody you talk to in the NBA, is most guys aren't allowed to bring their guys with them on the team plane, especially in Miami, where Phil Jackson ruled with an iron fist. The only guy who got the special treatment. Excuse me, Pat Riley. The only guy who got the special treatment was LeBron. Shaq didn't have that. Dwayne Wade didn't have that. LeBron did. And so whether you want to call them associates, boys, friends, entourage, posse, whatever, that was the point that's being made. And if nobody deems Phil to be a racist, which I don't think, he's one of the most liberal guys there is, his point might be more ageism than anything, but it's the racial tones to it, I think, I think a lot of it is, honestly, as a nation, we are suffering from post-election sensitivity disorder. We're so out of whack because of the entire election process And frankly, the guy who got elected, that black people think more white people are racist than they ever thought possible. And white people are like, I swear to God, I'm not a racist. I have no problem with people of color. And all the rest of us are caught in these weird conversations that we didn't have previously.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack.
Go ahead.
A couple things. First of all, on the Entourage example, right? In that show, one dude was the driver. The other dude initially had no business, because people have said, oh, so was Entourage racist? So first of all, Entourage is a different word than posse. And second of all, one dude was a failed actor. One dude was the pothead driver, at least early on. The other dude was just his buddy. It was not a guys that are power brokers within the industry. So that's the first thing. Second thing, of course, age plays a part of this, and of course, like that is there, correct?
Yeah.
But I think it is. People are so uncomfortable discussing race and we're so comfortable talking about age, right? Even though they both could be isms, that people want to say, no, it's just because they're young. It's just because they're young. And I am sitting here telling you that I believe in my heart of hearts that if they're the exact same age, and it might be a little classism as well, like where they came from, the exact same age, but Ivy League educated 30-year-olds instead of, coming up the way LeBron did, 30-year-olds, they would be held in a higher regard. And then this is, to me, the most important point, though, because maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe you're right, I'm wrong, okay? There is nothing lost from if I were to say to you, so like I came up in a union household, right?
Yep.
And they would write about my dad in the paper. He was the president of a firefighters union, and he got just destroyed in the paper all the time. They would write about him as a union thug, and they would write about him and kind of make slight allusions to his Italian heritage that always felt to me like it had some not so veiled. Maybe the guy's connected, maybe he's not. And if you came over to my house and made we're buddies, made some lighthearted joke about The Godfather, if I say to you like, hey man, I know you didn't mean it that way, but just so you know, for me, this is how I take it. I know you. You would be like, yo, my bad. Well, I'll be more aware of that. I had never thought of it. And what frustrates me is when Mav Carter says, hey, I think posse's racially charged. When LeBron says, hey, I don't think he says that if we're not young African Americans. Why does the response have to be, bleep you, Phil Jackson's not racist, you're a moron? Why can't the response just be, hey, I don't think he meant it that way, I didn't even consider that, but good to know.
But because what LeBron said was he used to respect him and now he doesn't. There wasn't. Yeah. That's what he said. He said they used to respect him and now he doesn't. And he made it as if that what Phil said. He didn't just say, "Hey, that's a word that is racially charged." He said, "Hey, look, this is just basically said this is another case of the man trying to keep a bunch of young brothers down." That's basically what he said in a nutshell, which is not the response to which you offered up.
But wait, if that's what he said, I mean, that's not basically what he said. What he basically
I can play it. I can here. You know what? I'll play it for you. I'll play it for you, and like it's 2 minutes long of him saying like it's really disappointing that we've created this $1 billion business, and like look, let's also not deny as much as Maverick Carter is a success and Rich Paul is a success. If not for LeBron James' coattails, none of this happens, right? Like I'm not
but we're not. I mean, but we don't do that to the senior vice president at Apple. We don't say, well, if not for Steve Jobs. I mean, we don't do that to other people. Like, yes, of course, every single person around.
We do that to Phil Jackson. We do it to Phil Jackson. How many times have people said, like, well, Phil Jackson didn't have Michael Jordan and didn't have Scottie Pippen and didn't have Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, he wouldn't be anything. Like that's exactly what we do to Phil Jackson. Okay,
we might we might slightly discount people if they are around someone super powerful and super successful, but we don't. There is not the connotation. Nobody thinks without those guys, Phil would be nothing.
Lots of people. I disagree. Look, I think it's an asinine, but there are lots of people who think Phil Jackson's a phony. The only thing he did was ride coattails. Again, I'm not talking about people with sense. I'm talking about people without sense. And
let me just ask this real quick because I know there's other stuff you want to talk about. Can we agree that LeBron James has not been someone who the first thing he does is run to race? right? LeBron, I think after Dan Gilbert wrote that letter.
Correct.
A lot of people thought there were racial components to that.
No, he has not fallen back on he has not played the race card often.
Right.
He has not played the race card often.
So I would just say to the audience and to whomever, it costs nothing to listen. And if a guy who seems to have, over the course of the last 14 years in the NBA, built up some credibility as far as he doesn't try to just stay in the public eye via controversy. He's not a guy who's always looking for headlines. If anything, obviously, he's a star, but he doesn't court controversy. If that guy decides, this bothered me. This bothered me enough that someone like LeBron, who respects the history of the game as much as any current athlete I know, is going to say, you know what, I don't even respect Phil Jackson anymore. Even if you think, man, you're being awful sensitive about this, or man, I don't think that's how he meant it. It costs nothing to say, you know, I'll reconsider, though, because LeBron isn't a guy, he doesn't cry wolf. Like I think he has earned our respect to the point to where if he says, I feel like there was a racial component to this, which is not the same as saying Phil Jackson's a racist. Just there's a racial component to this that he would say, like, I'm going to use one other example and then I'll shut up about this. I would have, if you remember during the election, there was some tweet Trump put up that had there was a picture. It had money in the background and there was a Jewish star on it. So I am, I guess, numb to that stuff. I'm not Jewish. I don't know a lot about anti-Semitism. I didn't realize that was, for a lot of people, a very clear dog whistle to anti-Semitic imagery. Once someone told me that, my response wasn't, bleep you. No, it wasn't. It was, oh. Okay, good to know. I don't see a scenario where I would have put up a tweet like that, but now at least there's a safeguard. I just wish people, especially people in positions of privilege and power, more often said, oh, I hadn't thought of the way the Indians logo was a cartoonish characterization of Native Americans. Maybe we shouldn't use it. That costs, the only thing that costs is a slight feeling of power over others. And if you're cool giving that up, which I think people should be more cool giving that up, I think we'd all be in a healthier place.